Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into an absolutely wild journey of personification that spans all the way from the ancient city of Hermopolis right up to 21st century internet message boards. We are looking at Kek, a figure who bridged the gap between primordial darkness and, believe it or not, modern internet meme culture.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap. We'll kick things off with the Ogdad's primordial darkness, move on to the catalysts of the daily cycle, trace the shifting forms from frogs to serpents, and finally, unpack that crazy modern mimetic resurrection.
Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, the Ogdoad's primordial darkness.
So, what exactly is the Ogdoad? Well, it was a group of 8 ancient Egyptian deities, originating from Hermopolis. They were divided into 4 male-female pairs, and each pair embodied a fundamental element of creation from before the structured universe even existed. Kek was a totally vital member of this cosmic framework, representing the absolute, shadowy state that hung around right at the dawn of everything.
Now, to really get Kek, we have to completely recontextualize how we think about the dark. Seriously, forget your typical modern assumptions about darkness being scary or empty. The ancient Egyptians didn't see it as a space of evil at all. Instead, they viewed it as this boundless expanse of inert waters. It was a liminal space of unformed potential, basically a protective, preparatory womb for life to gestate. This completely flips our modern perspective, doesn't it? It shows how they saw the dark as a crucial, fertile, and deeply generative force that actually had to precede creation.
It gets even more fascinating when you consider the actual hieroglyphs. The name Kek, which was written as K, KK, or KKY, actually featured a variant of the sky hieroglyph that was physically intertwined with a staff. And that staff symbol is closely associated with the word for darkness. I mean, it's just brilliant how literally the ancient Egyptians constructed his written name. It was a visual cue indicating the darkness that needed to be propped up or lifted to allow the light of creation to emerge. It literally encapsulates his entire cosmic duty in a single image.
Moving right along to Section 2, Catalyst of the Daily Cycle.
This is where that famous Egyptian belief in duality really shines. You have the male entity, Kek. His specific epithet was the raiser-up of the light because his role was to actively lift the darkness to prepare for the dawn. But right alongside him is his female counterpart, Kauket. Her epithet was the raiser-up of the night, meaning she actively brought that protective dark back to end the day. These two were absolutely not passive background figures. They were dynamic, perfectly balanced catalysts, ensuring that light and darkness perpetually succeeded one another, day in and day out.
So if there's one thing you take away from this, it's this foundational idea of balance. Darkness, in this context, is not evil, but rather a necessary partner to light, maintaining cosmic harmony. You literally cannot have the dawn without the protective night that preceded it.
All right, let's pivot a bit for Section 3, Shifting Forms, Frogs and Serpents.
You know, Egyptian religious art wasn't just static, it was incredibly fluid and adaptable across millennia. In early antiquity, Kek was depicted with a serpent head, a frog head, or sometimes even a cat head. As we move into transitional antiquity, artworks start identifying him as Kakakui, sporting a frog head surmounted by a beetle. And finally, by the Greco-Roman period, the whole iconography really solidified. Kek was universally depicted as a frog-headed man, while Kauket was shown as a serpent-headed woman.
But why frogs and snakes, right? Well, there's actually a brilliant natural logic behind these zoomorphic depictions. The amphibian male form, the frog, symbolizes fertility and proliferation. This was directly inspired by the sheer abundance of frogs teeming along the banks of the Nile River, a very literal signal of life and agricultural growth. On the flip side, the reptilian female form, the serpent, symbolizes generative forces, transformation, and adaptability, and that was inspired by snakes shedding their skin to be reborn. The Egyptians looked directly at the localized biology of their own environment to make sense of the grand cosmic design.
And now, let's jump into the wildest part of the story, Section 4, the modern mimetic resurrection.
Fast forward literally thousands of years. Long after the decline of Egyptian polytheism and profound religious reverence, a highly unusual cultural convergence happened. Users on internet message boards, most notably 4chan, noticed a striking visual resemblance between those ancient Greco-Roman depictions of the frog-headed deity Kek and a popular internet cartoon character known as Pepe the Frog. This simple, kind of bizarre visual synchronicity ended up sparking an entirely new, modern resurgence of interest in a completely forgotten Hermopolitan deity.
What followed became known as the meme magic phenomenon. Suddenly, you had frog imagery being superimposed onto ancient Egyptian art, and it spread rapidly across anonymous online message boards. Over time, this specific symbolism was widely adopted by right-wing movements. It actually reached such a massive level of cultural saturation that it was referenced by prominent figures like Elon Musk, and Donald Trump even tweeted an image of himself styled as a version of the frog. As documented by organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center and Polygon, this evolved from a niche internet joke into a fully documented sociological event. Ancient symbols were completely repurposed by modern digital movements.
Which brings us to a final profound thought. From the sacred ancient temples of Hermopolis to the chaotic digital message boards of the 21st century, how exactly does humanity's constant need to assign profound meaning to symbols manage to bridge a gap of millennia? It's genuinely fascinating to realize that our fundamental human instinct for myth-making, our innate desire to find deeper meaning in the symbols around us, hasn't really changed in thousands of years. Thanks so much for exploring this remarkable journey with me today.